So yes, thanks for everyone for coming back. I'm just going to take a quick attendance. Links, Tom, Arkisti, Winverse, and NF Thinker, GM1 and all. Thank you for being here. So this is our weekly All Team Tactical. We're going to sync up on the work that we're doing. We help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. I did change the lag metrics the last time we talked. They're not too much different than they were, but we have 90.62 in transaction volume. We had a ton in rejected transactions, which is kind of interesting. I haven't seen why yet, but we had like 1,600 in rejected transactions. Actually, that rejected transactions that you added to the admin dashboard, Tom, yeah, it's very interesting. Actually, we have rejected about 50%, or let's say not really 50%, 1/3 of all transactions. So that's kind of very interesting metric that we weren't seeing in the previous dashboard. So yeah, thanks for that, Tom.
I thought the same when I noted that as well too. I think with the my recent concerns about sort of like new accounts that were being added, I was like, there's a lot of rejected transactions that maybe could give us some more insight into the behavior. So yeah, I'm glad it's useful.
Nice. And we have 52,021 in the vault. Actually, that is just the USDC we have in the vault. We also have Ethereum. That is something that I should add to that kind of vault widget, but I haven't done it yet. But on the upside, if you look at the blackflagcollective.org, you can actually see that the deposit widget is just is there. So hopefully it'll make it easier to get that number in the future, which is exactly what we said we wanted to do. Put those metrics kind of here on Black Flag Collective. We also dispersed $250 to communities. And so that is also a lag metric that we have, something that will happen monthly. On the lead metric side, these I just created this morning, but I do think that it's something that we've talked about. I don't think that these ones are super easy to get yet, but in some cases, they're good enough. So in terms of weekly contributors, I just got this from the What Did You Ship channel. So well, in the future, hopefully we will actually hook into what Arcus is doing on splits and show this automatically on blackflagcollective.org. But for now, we have it in Discord, and we had 3 weekly contributors, not really weekly contributors, but contributors since the last time since the last time we had a meet. We had 86 weekly external engagement, and this was on Farcaster. I only counted Farcaster. This was any posts on the Black Flag channel in the last week. So that's what I'm counting there. I am kind of like iffy on this metric. I did think like, we're trying to create revenue and engagement, but I don't know. I wasn't quite sure about this. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about this metric? Does it make sense? We could have engagement on other channels too, but I don't know. Thoughts on this metric?
Yeah, I mean, any and all public social engagement is probably worth tracking in some way, shape, or form if it's significant enough. 85 seems significant enough at this point.
And I guess is that number like the all of them on the protocol, or because I don't know like what's being like what you would like what you would see.
So basically, you see these numbers at the bottom, like 16 likes, 5, and nothing, no comments here. I just counted up all these for anything within the last 7 days. So here we have 21, plus we have 7 plus 35, we have 42. So that's like 63. And I just did that. I just added all these up. Right? And so, like the idea being that like if we have more people posting on this channel, then we'll have more engagement. If we have more people if we post interesting content on this channel, we'll have more engagement. But like, I don't actually know, right? Like, I don't know I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the best.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe because I was kind of thinking like, well, what does it look like on other clients and that kind of stuff. I've been like avoiding, like Base keeps trying to get me to like see their social stuff, and I've been trying to avoid that. So,
well, I mean, I've kind of have a love-hate relationship with social right now, which is another reason why I was kind of like not trying to post that. But from a community perspective, So we could do it for Farcast. We could do it for other communities. Like we could basically like write a little widget that shows that kind of engagement on Farcaster in on the website. But I don't know. I wasn't quite sure. This is why I'm iffy on this. I do think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's something to kind of maybe like. I'll want to kind of look around at a few things in it, and maybe we've got some feedback in the future, like what it.
Yeah, like the question is, does this actually lead to anything good for us, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the idea is that it does, right? In the lead metrics, the hypothesis rather is that it does. We don't actually know. Like, does it actually lead to more money in the vault? Does it lead to more transaction volume? Does it lead to more money dispersed to communities? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, something to think about, something we can talk about as well. And then our monthly burn rate. Well, this is something. All of these lead metrics, they came out of me reading our retrospective and looking at the themes that were out of there. And so we talked about being more resilient. We're actually, I would say the burn rate is pretty high. So you can see over the last kind of. Well, actually, I wonder if we can show this for more time. Anyways, you can kind of see like we're down to like just over half of our runway in Mercury here. So you can kind of see that the money out is mainly going to hosting, Google Workspace, Vercel. These are all things that we can kind of like keep, but our last 3 months average is like 368. The big one here is like we could probably reduce some of this burn, right? Like I think the big one here is darn it. The big one here is
CoinGecko. I thought was
exactly
like pretty big. Yeah.
So CoinGecko is like close to half of all of our burn, and we're only using it for Taxman, which doesn't have a lot of users. So that is why I kind of like threw that on there, our monthly burn rate, because we could like, let's say, essentially like double our runway, or we could decide that. Yeah. Anyways, it's something for us to think about. And yeah, so does that make sense? That monthly burn rate that's here?
Yeah, that does make sense. And yeah, I do see CoinGecko as one of the largest costs that we have currently, largest individual costs. So definitely worth weighing up whether or not it's useful maintaining that.
Yeah. Cool. All right, team-wide announcements. Not much here. Just make sure that when you do ship something, put it in the "What did you ship" channel. We'll just want to make sure that everyone gets compensated for that, especially if that leads to something in the future, which that's what I'm aiming to do. And from a project perspective, we have the deposit widget on B pages. I did deploy the latest here, even if it is a little bit buggy. So you can go to blackflagcollective.org. You can log in with the same account. You log in to use BCard, and you can kind of see what you've deposited. You can see how you can actually vote on here. So now we kind of have, in some ways, that kind of baseline. It's not. There's still some bugs in there. I would say like 25% of the time, the deposit doesn't work, and like let's say like 10% of the time the withdraw doesn't work. It's really just some timing issues when reading blockchain stuff. So yeah, I want to like take another pass at that and do some code cleanup. But it's still, I mean, it's still better than not having it up there at all. And we have the number there too, which was previously just on my local machine, so you can see how much USD deposits are in there. And so yeah, I feel like before the break, was it even less than this? I'm not quite sure, but we had the USD deposits here. Now it's roughly the same. Okay, so never mind about that. And so next up on this site, well, one of the big things that I'm noticing all the time whenever I go to these meetups, whenever I hold these meetups, is that whenever I say, hey, does anyone want a POAP? Basically everyone wants one, and people who have no clue what that is are just like, oh yeah, I want one too, right? And so one of the things is though when I do it, and people who have Farcaster are like, oh yeah, okay, I can use my Farcaster for it. Okay, show me how. So I'll show them how. It doesn't show up in Farcaster consistently. So at the meetup I had last week, we had one person who had it show up almost immediately, and we had like another four people who it still hasn't shown up for. And I looked out in mine this morning; it still didn't show up. So we do have a badges widget in the BCard app. And this has stuff like Chippy. This has stuff like DAO Punks. This has stuff like our contributor tokens. And so I think next up is to get that badges widget here on Black Flag Collective. And at first, it's just going to be kind of like a white list of, hey, all of these POAPs and stuff like that. But eventually, we can get to the point where we make it easy for hosts to actually create those POAPs, or maybe even create their own NFTs to distribute to members and other kinds of things like that. So it is a building block for the future. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Yeah, I second that motion. I definitely blame POAPs for even getting me involved in on-chain activity at all. I received my bankless POAP and through the podcast subscription, and I essentially had to create a MetaMask wallet. So, as an onboarding mechanism, it's certainly great. And as you say, when you say, "Does anybody want a POAP?" Of course, I want a POAP, right? Somebody wants it free, and it's a memorabilia, a commemorator, validity, proof of attendance, obviously, proof of participation, as it were. And yeah, I would second that, adding POAPs to the badges section, and POAP creation if possible.
Yeah, it might not be possible for us to do POAP creation, but we can find out. I mean, I do have a contact at the POAP team, and I feel like we're a regular, consistent user of POAP. So yeah, hopefully. Sorry, Tom, you had something to say on this too?
Oh no, that's good. I was just going to actually jump back to the deposit widget and say, great job. It looks awesome. Just logged in, funded my wallet, did a deposit. Everything's all good. Worked 100%. Great. I just wanted to maybe add a little note in your technical details there. With the absence of the buttons when you have no USDC, which makes sense, right? We set it up that way so people didn't get confused. We should indicate a note in the technical details that controls will be there when you have funds to deposit or withdraw, something like that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. And when I didn't have ETH in my account too, right? Like that was the thing that I don't know if you guys
Same
saw on the
story.
What Did You Ship channel, but like the buttons didn't show up, and I was like, what is going on? And I was just like, oh, it's because I didn't have ETH. Even though I sent myself USDC, I didn't have ETH in there.
Yeah,
So
so something like when your ETH balance is 0, bold that line in the technical details is what I was thinking, and then there may be a subsequent line beneath that when your USDC balance is 0, saying that in order to enable deposits for the vault, deposit USDC to your wallet address, and then the wallet address is right below. So that should probably be sufficient.
I think I'm going to make it a little bit even more prominent. So I'm not logged in here, but basically I'm going to put it even like where the buttons would go. I'll put like a special call out, like maybe something yellow or something like that. And that's what I was thinking in my head as I was doing this yesterday. Because yeah, it's the user has no path forward. Like they don't know what to do next. Even I
That's
didn't
the
know what to
right.
do next.
I know that's the right lead. I was thinking the same too when I logged in. I was like, man, thank goodness I know that I had worked with this thing before, that I knew how to set it up, that I knew what it was wanting to reveal its UI.
Yeah, and for everyone else's edification, this is not the ideal case that people are like, huh, how the heck do I use this? And even that like error message is not the ideal case. Like ideally, we'd have an even easier way to onboard funds, like through let's say let's say through Privy using like Bridge or something like that. So they could just use their credit card or something like that. But we always want to make everything as shippable as we can and then add features as we go. So that's a kind of intent behind that. But yes, so there's still some stuff I want to do onto this, and I may as well add this on here, make it so we can deposit with fiat. So we do have that ability because we have a bridge account, we have a privy account. Not everyone can do this, but if we like the approach that Tom and I talked about is kind of like if we leverage these external vendors and we just tell people like, hey, if you want to use this, you need a privy account. Just type your privy ID into this configuration file and you're good to go. That's kind of the approach that we're going to be taking with this. All right. So next up, we have the badges, weekly contributor widget. This is what we kind of talked about. This is like kind of like the what did you ship channel. And this is, again, something that we can kind of build up over time. But it would be really cool if instead of using what did you ship, you were just using this kind of website and you were posting your contribution onto blockchain instead of Discord. Anyways, that's not what this weekly contributor widget will be to start, but that's kind of like the long-term thing would be you don't even need to use Discord. You can just use this thing. So we'll see. And then make it so we can deposit with fiat. All right, the BCard app maintenance mode, the snapshot bug. I haven't heard from Phil yet. I did poke him actually already this morning. So hopefully he is around, but I think he's like kind of semi-retired. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's taking it easy to get into the new year. Automation of monthly / inactivity emails. I think that you posted something about this, Tom. Do you want to give an update?
Oh, basically the framework is in place. All the software and code has been written. All the thing is live on production. The last thing I got to do is run a couple of tests and then implement the cron, and we should be good to go. Mostly, I just didn't want to, over the holidays, accidentally spam 150 cardholders with statements or like wrong statements or anything. So I was just hopefully getting through the holidays and then probably complete my testing on production and set it all up to automate.
Nice.
Intelligent choice, Tom.
Yeah, that is.
Don't spam
that
people
is
over the
smart.
holidays. Unsubscribe,
I-
unsubscribe.
I did a ton of like changes to the TX server over the last like 6 weeks or so. And I was just had like fear in my heart that I was going to like break something like critical. And so all I wanted to do is just make sure that all of the updates that I put in place were working, that everything was processing as we expected. And people could still manually generate statements as needed from the UI, their own UI. So, and then obviously the rest of the stuff is hopefully be nice to have when we get it in.
Yeah, and again, this is kind of reducing our maintenance burden while increasing the level of service for our users. So that's great. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that the last statement I got, the header image was missing. I think on all of the emails that I got it to. So maybe
Yep.
something to note. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was during my build. That was related to the Vercel lockdown of our staging site, right? Because I had accidentally hard-coded that image to be pulled from our staging server. And with the security authentication required via Vercel, it was like, I can't get this picture. So I just flipped it back over to the main server and everything should be okay moving forward with that.
Yes. Cool. Looks good. And we also have, for the B Foundation, establishing a case study in presence. Well, for Black Flag Collective, I ran an event. We distributed the yield for November. We drew the yield for December. We also shared this on socials. We also drew the yield for December. Next steps is to get a vote up for December. I'm going to reach out to all the hosts. We actually already have 4 events that are ready for December, so we're actually okay with the amount of events that we have. But I'm just going to poke all the hosts just to give them a little, a couple, just like a poke, so that they can get their events in. The more events we have, the better, right? So. Working on our own system, blog post. I assume that this has not moved at all, Richard. Is that right?
Whoops. No, it's has not moved.
Okay. And updating our community metrics. Well, these are the kinds of things that we've been talking about. Getting the vault deposits up here, updating the things that we have, the lead metrics up at the top here, and then finally, like making it available on this kind of community vault. I think, like, yeah, in terms of metrics, I think I have some other things that I would like to from a technical perspective around how we count members. Anyways, something that I'll speak about from a technical perspective with you, Tom, on like our privy accounts and that kind of thing. But yes, that's where we're at right now. And then finally, we have a yearly tax filing that we probably need to get working on. Richard, I'm really hoping to get your help with this, and I know you've already started working on it. But I decided to put it here because it's on our task perspective.
Yep, and yeah, I think this is the time of year that we should be focusing on it. So sounds
Awesome.
good.
All right, I'm going to skip over the task perspective for now because I wanted to spend a little bit more time on our. Sorry, 1 second. My wife's phone is ringing and it's in my hands. I just got to go give it to her. Sorry about that. So yes, I want to leave some time for our discussion because I just have tons of thoughts swirling in my head, and it's always super useful to get your opinion on it. But first, let's do what we shipped last week. So Arcus entered contributor rewards for week 51 into splits. So that's 250 B card. I shared the all hands on social media. That's 250 B card. I also fixed the issue with the vault balances on B pages. That is 1500 B card. I held the all hands. That is 2000 2KB card. Yeah. Winverse, I actually didn't see you on here, and I think that you recorded and uploaded the all hands. That was the did you record and upload the retrospective? I'm pretty sure that you did, but I don't think it was in the What Did You Ship channel. Let's see. I'm just scrolling up. Yeah, December 17th. Yeah, okay. So it's in there. So I'll just put that as 2KB card. All right, I distributed November in real life rewards and shared on social. That's 1KB card. I withdrew yield for December 2025. That's 250B card. Tom pushed commits to prod to enable monthly cron reports distribution for statements and inactivity. That's 2KB card. I added some error handling to the deposit function to get it ready for production. That's 1500B card. I realized that I was what my error was, and then I got it in there. Why is it not going in here? There we go. And that is 500B card. Make sense? Okay.
All
Yep,
good.
it does.
Nice. All right, so something we've been talking about, especially as we've been having difficulty with the traditional financial system, is this idea of a parallel financial system. So our written purpose is to bridge the gap between Web3 and the real world. And the way that we had been kind of like originally thinking or envisioning how we would do this is to have that kind of like physical card, it's a bridge between Web3 and the real world. So we were really trying to be the bridge between Web3 and the real world. And I think that is, honestly, I still think that is a potential way to do it. But I think our ability to do that specifically as a team has really been hampered by our capacity. We don't have VC funding. We're all volunteers. And so I was trying to think of other ways. So we just don't have the resources, is the way that I would put it, to compete head to head with TradFi in that way as a bridge. And so I was thinking about okay, so what can we actually do? What can we actually accomplish? I think for us, it's really about looking for gaps that we can actually fill for people. And these are things like small projects, low maintenance projects, easy to use projects that are useful without scale, right? I think that was one of the big issues that we had with our TradFi, is that it all works at scale, but in a small scale, it doesn't really work. So does that make sense to people? Like this kind of these kinds of constraints that I'm putting on it?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I've been thinking recently is about our playbook. It's quite obviously, solely focused on our card. I mean, it does discuss legal structure, which is all valid still, but the main product isn't necessarily a card, and that's because we can't compete at that level. At one point, we thought we would be able to scale quickly because of our connections in the crypto world, and we all know how that ended. It's not our fault. Things just happen, and so our ability to scale was handicapped by that sort of brand kerfuffle. So, moving forward, if we're going to focus on being a community platform where people can manage their own communities, create their own treasuries, so they can uh, accept donations or generate yield through user funds, direct money to where they need it to go as a community, all these things that we're talking about building, I think we need to start with the playbook. Take a look at that and see what we keep, what we change. And I don't know if there's anything we need to do before we get to that stage of editing the playbook.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you that we need like let's say a written strategy. Is that what you mean when you say we need to update our playbook?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to take a top level approach of what it is we're offering, and be able to describe it to the end users, whoever they may be, on the community user side, community organizer side, event hosts, etc., 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 voters, and
Yeah.
yeah, product roadmap, if you will.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think like a product roadmap is a little bit more like I want to get like I think like the thing that we need before we get that product roadmap is that kind of like top level. What are our
Mhm.
opinions, right? And our opinions have changed since that last playbook's written, right? So like, what are
Mhm.
our opinions? What do our opinions mean about like the kind of world that we want to see? Like, I still feel strongly that that like blockchain technologies can really help everyday people in a significant way, right? In fact, I'm
Mhm.
only more convinced of that ever since things like invasions of Venezuela and that kind of stuff has happened, right? Like all these political events in the last year have made me even more convinced that crypto is potentially useful to people. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. We all know the boon that crypto offers us. I also don't think we necessarily need to make it a feature topic. We can say how crypto is, we're using crypto to do X, Y, Z. But we don't even need to look at ourselves as a crypto platform or even crypto educators
100%.
anymore. I used to confuse this with crypto education, and it's a totally different thing. If people want to learn crypto, they can go ahead and go learn crypto, and they can probably do it a lot easier through their AI terminal. But
Yes,
we need to, we need to basically write down what the problems are and what we're solving for. And I think
exactly.
maybe that first step will help us get to those eventual product roadmaps.
Yes. Um, Yes, completely agree. And so I wrote that down here. And so you asked as well in that I hate adding new things in. Here we go, delete. You asked as well, like, what do we need to do before we could do that? I think like this conversation that we're having right now is kind of a prerequisite into that. Like, I just want to get a little bit more feedback on what we're doing here. I've written some stuff down here that I'll take us through, but essentially the idea of this parallel financial system, like does that first of all ring true to people that like we want a parallel financial system, that's kind of what we're doing to bridge the gap?
I don't think we need to even answer that question. A parallel financial system is coming, whether we like it or not. I don't think we need to integrate one directly into our ecosystem. If anything, we should use composability to allow access to alternative financial ecosystems. And that's essentially what we're doing in crypto, right? So I
Yeah,
don't think that should necessarily be one of our main goals, is producing it, but
so
definitely allowing access.
I don't think that
Accessibility.
we have the ability to produce it, and I agree that it's coming. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that we should produce it. Sorry, go ahead, Arkisti.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, yeah, I kind of agree with what NF was saying, and I think that there's it's gotten to the point where there's like infrastructure now that can be put together to do like what had been done, in the traditional financial system. And I think the traditional financial system is like starting to like use some of that infrastructure and probably going pretty heavily into it. But I think there's an opportunity to approach it from the other side, like looking at use cases, and because they're going to be replicating their businesses using the new infrastructure, but there's probably areas that where something new can be put in, or something that they're not that's not in their sites, or doesn't make sense for them to replicate, that we can do.
Yes, exactly. And so we should be looking for gaps in this parallel financial system that's coming, not gaps that like, and also small, low maintenance, easy to use gaps. Basically, the way that I was thinking in my head is the last mile between all of these kind of like very technical, kind of difficult to use infrastructure tools and the actual human experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think that
100%.
there's yep.
Yeah,
we
sorry, I
should be
didn't mean
looking-
to cut you off there, Richard. But yes, I think that does make sense. Find gaps in that parallel economy and provide solutions there.
Okay, great. And so I think that, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Tom, how do you feel about that? Just so we're getting everyone's opinion before we move on.
Yeah, 100%. I think that sort of making available for use the new tools of the parallel economy to small business is going to be a niche that will need filling.
Yeah. What about you, Winverse? I'm not sure if you're able to speak, but you can also just type into the chat. Okay. I don't know if Winverse is with us, but I did kind of like try to create a little map of this kind of like parallel financial system. So we have these two parallel columns here, the money system, and these are kind of like our networks, BTC, ETH. I put money system in quotes because it is like a really you could just call this TradFi or something like this, but it's kind of like replaced with networks. So cash is things like BTC, Ethereum, USDC, EURC or whatever. Bank accounts are now wallets and accounts, including custodial accounts. So if you have an account with Coinbase, you can have multiple accounts with Coinbase, and that's what like a bank account kind of looks like. Now transfers, oh my God, are there a plethora of transfers? We have credit cards, debit cards, Swift, ACH, cash payments. You just hand cash to someone. PayPal, Stripe, Venmo. These are all different kinds of transfers. And in NuFi, we have kind of like transactions, native and contract transactions. Instead of banks, we have UIs, which is kind of interesting to me because these in this new world where all accounts are kind of like available to everyone, you could potentially switch banks and you would just be switching UIs. That's how you have access to your money. Point of sale systems like Clover, Square is what I meant to put here. You have tools like Burner, and I'm sure there are other ones as well, but Burner is just the one that came to mind. And then we have things like storefront inventory and fulfillment, like Shopify, Lightspeed, WooCommerce. So CB Commerce is one. There are probably others. I know, like for instance, Minted Merch on Farcaster, although it's small, is an example of one, but I'm sure there are others. This is a very basic kind of like map of that parallel system. But does that make sense to people? Does this ring true to you?
Yeah, I mean, I can see the parallels with what I have over here in Europe. We have open banking, the open banking system, and apps interface very well together. And you're right, it's just rather than switching banks, it's just like going between different UIs. So the UI is definitely going to be important if we're going to solve any problem, because you want to make an app that people want to use, and it kind of does everything they need it to do without any prompting, without much prompting, right?
Mhm.
To the final step, whatever that may be. So community specific, in terms of offering these tools to businesses, I guess it's really a case of just finding out like what UIs already exist that they're familiar with using and probably wouldn't change to what UIs can we provide there. That would be helpful integrations. And it's community specific as well. So there aren't a lot of community apps out there. But communities might be it's like offering an alternative to Google Docs, right? Communities are already using Google Docs, and to share your Google Docs, there's a plethora of ways of doing it. So we're not going to integrate Docs at all. And in the same way, there are certain card technologies out there that we probably don't need to integrate. So really, that I guess that's our specific task, is find those particular gaps.
Yeah, and I think as well, like this map is not a full map either, right? Like for instance, at the bottom, I said the above also needs bridges between on ramp and off ramp. And I'm sure that I missed like some things here, right? And so, like you mentioned, open banking. I don't know if it's really, if this really captures it. So yeah, sorry, Tom, I see you unmuted.
Oh, I was just going to say for POS there, for NuFi, we might want to consider something like web links or even QR code links that link to the web as a sort of an interface that people will be using as POS, sort of allowing people to use their own devices as the payment gateway terminals.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so like
that's a relatively easy integration to allow interfacing with other terminals and other payment systems as well.
Mhm. Yeah, so this is essentially a lot of wallets provide this access to, right? And so Rainbow has like that kind of like QR link where you can kind of send people to like request a payment from a Rainbow user. Yeah. And so I guess like I started to think about myself, and this gets into what Richard was saying, like we could think about use cases a little bit more and where there are gaps. So I started thinking about like what is the most potential benefit of a parallel financial system? And did I spell parallel wrong here? Am I spelling parallel wrong my whole life? Okay, well, there it is. Who has the most benefit of potential of a parallel financial system? I've really been zeroing in on small business over the last couple of months. And the reason why is because when we talk about generating revenue and engagement, okay, so like a community, if they need revenue, they start selling something, right? They start selling memberships, they start selling NFTs, they start selling merch, whatever it is. That makes them a small business. And really, the difference between a small business and a community is what they do with that money, right? A small business exists just for profit, and a community uses that profit towards some end, but they have a lot of the same problems when it comes to that kind of like earning and handling that money. And I again, like I don't think that for an entrenched business who's been around for a couple of years, I don't think that they're going to be super eager to switch on to a new platform. Although there are some who I've been talking to who do want to move on to new platforms. I think that small business is it's really new small businesses that like people who are first thinking about like, oh, I want to accept money for my art. How do I do it? Um, but yeah, thoughts on that? Thoughts on that thinking?
I think one of the biggest problems for small businesses is that due to their small size, their amount of expertise that they can throw at any one particular thing is limited. So big businesses have no problem. They can hire any number of experts that they need to do whatever they need to do. But small businesses, we gotta kind of figure it out on our own. We got to figure out a way to make it work with whatever sort of limitations that we have with the people that we have to work with. For example, I'm a terrible like marketer and sales guy, but as a small business owner, I feel like I should always try to get better at that because it's something that I have to do frequently, and because I don't do it frequently enough, I don't think I get that much better at it. So.
Well, I still wear your crypto poker T-shirt, so that was a good campaign.
Hey, well, it's an awesome T-shirt. I love it too.
I love it.
So the crypto T-shirt did not fit on me.
Oh,
I got
sorry.
the crypto poker T-shirt. Otherwise, I'd probably still be wearing it. But yeah,
We'll have
yeah.
to maybe we'll do a 5-year anniversary reprint.
Well, we were talking about how like T-shirts in general are just like they just are good marketing and doing like a little merch shop for Black Flag, and then being able for anyone to use those kinds of things is interesting.
Hey, I have just a kind of off the wall idea that just popped in my head. The poker app that you had, I mean, it was based on solid foundations. And in theory, we could create different types of games that communities could integrate that would keep their members coming back. And rather than like dumping all your attention economy into your own personal attention economy, or your own personal attention rather, into Candy Crush, for example, you spend time like playing a game on a community, you compete against other people, you can maybe host a poker tournament. That could be something that we could implement rather easily, I believe, if we create the space for people to integrate their own games as well, make it more plug and play or composable, or just give them the option to access their own games or submit a game for approval, that type of thing. And maybe that would increase community engagement.
Games as modules that we can add on that would just sort of encourage people to keep coming back and discovering the new things that we're going to be adding is probably an awesome way to think about it. I often think about ShakePay's engagement, right? The way they just get you to open up the app and shake it every day, like regardless of whether you're going out and you're shopping on anything like that. It's still, that's such a powerful action just to get you to load that app, right? Just to get you to go to that website.
Well, and you can also open up a world of gaming to communities like NFL teams, NBA teams, or even community basketball teams, community your kids' football team. Hey, log in today, and by do it rather than becoming a task of voting, it's a community engagement game of some sort where we could even gamify the sort of voting process, right? If it came down to it. But I don't know. Like I said, off the wall idea, maybe something to consider.
So have you seen? It used to be called Farcade, but now it's called Remix on Farcaster.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have this kind of like users can submit games and this kind of thing. So yeah, I wonder if there's definitely
maybe even
there,
integrate
right?
Farcade and create a specific category for community engagement.
Yeah. So I mean, so an interesting thing. It's funny that you should mention that is because we could integrate Farcade just by supporting Farcaster mini apps on our on that on like for instance on this website. If we had like a Farcaster mini app widget, and you could specify which widget it was. So like, hey, on my community, we play Farcade, and we play a specific Farcade game. So you log in and you play this Farcade game, and it's like you're playing with other members of the community. So all this to say that we could get more leverage on building a widget to use mini apps rather than building the mini app ourselves probably at first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if those mini apps are designed like to be blockchain integrated or like on chain specific, then it should allow us to sort of scrape those gaming metrics to use them towards our own internal gamification of the site as well. So that's a cool idea. I like it.
Yeah, integrating mini apps, I think, is a logical progression. I would totally support that.
Yeah. So going back to that idea of who would benefit from a parallel financial system. Yeah, so I think that so I mentioned small business, and marginalized community, which anyone who doesn't fit into TradFi. But I guess that I was just kind of wondering, like, I've really been zooming in on small business lately, because I also think that they're the biggest potential benefits to AI. Um, and I also think that AI is going to basically create a lot of job losses, and there's going to be a ton of people who are just kind of like, they may as well start a new business. And so I feel like the era of small business is coming. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about that, or any other kind of group that would benefit from a parallel financial system? Because these are the use cases that we need to work backwards from.
The era of small business has arrived. Small businesses have access to enterprise data, shipping abilities, logistics, communications. I think, yeah, definitely, era of small business is here.
Yeah, I've been pushing that shift for like almost every action I take. It feels like business wise since maybe 15 years or so, 2008 maybe, towards more small business, and everybody can be a small business. And what can you contribute as a small business? These are very interesting questions to me.
Yeah. And like just the ability to be able to get something up and running in Web 2, you can actually do it relatively quickly, to get something up and running, but there are some things that are blockers that might be annoying. So for instance, you may have to KYC to start your small business. One of my brother-in-laws ran a store on Etsy, and was making like, $10,000 a month, and Etsy pulled the plug on his store, saying he wasn't like a, just for an arbitrary reason. They said he was violating their terms of service, right? And so these kinds of things, if we can kind of create tools that they're not going to be useful to every small business or any small business who kind of ever exists, but they could be useful to some small businesses, right? And finding out who those are and what their problems are might be interesting.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I was just kind of thinking on these solutions. You kind of need to experiment, and it's kind of like a curate, like so. Sorry, like create solutions, then curate them, and then kind of like I'm thinking the word editorialize, but there's probably a better word. But just like talking about it and getting people to use it and engagement, and say like, oh, this is what I do. I use took these tools or whatever, and now I'm able to do this. And I think like we were talking about, there's these opportunities and holes that are not being addressed by the big businesses. So there's probably tons of stuff out there like that can be delved into.
yeah, so as I kind of told you, I've been asking small business owners about their small businesses lately. Just because I was like looking at it from an AI perspective, and there are tons of gaps right now because there's like so much new technology, and most business owners don't know where to start. Not only that, there are a lot of people at kind of like mid-sized businesses who have been directed to use AI to help their workflows, and they're just like, I don't even know what I would do. So let's just say there's a lot of uncertainty around small businesses right now, because of the new technology that has come into play.
The success playbooks are all out of date, right? So, like
Exactly.
any guidance that anybody's giving you as to the successful path that they followed is not necessarily one that can be reproduced, or at least not in the same way.
Yep, agreed. So there is definitely some opportunity. And what you were saying, Richard, around like, hey, even that idea of like, hey, what worked for me and that kind of stuff, like there's value there as well, right? Like it's not just like, um like what we can do, but just like that idea of like facilitating a conversation between two people who are having some issues is also um, potentially useful in and of itself, right? It's like talking to someone and writing their experiences down and sharing that is also potentially useful too. So I see we're kind of on the tail end of our time here. I just trying to sum this up. I think like ultimately for that playbook, for that kind of like written strategy, and I think it is important in a thinker because I don't think that we can really attract new people unless we write that down. I don't think we can actually utilize new members or new contributors here unless we kind of write that down and make it something that people can get behind. So I think
Mhm.
that new playbook has to synthesize what we've talked about today. This kind of like understanding that there are a lot of new pieces coming into play. New infrastructure pieces, new
Mhm.
user facing pieces, and what can we do as a nonprofit with the purpose that we have? It's really to find the gaps and that kind of like. I mean, I like this last mile. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else, but that kind of like last mile to the user. If we can take all these things and use them, that's always what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to make that user experience better. And
Mhm.
so I think that still makes sense. Although we've come to it from like a different place, we're actually in a much better place to be able to do that today than we ever have been because of the technology, because of the way that crypto is going, and because of just like the overall context of the world. I think that there's more people now who could potentially see those benefits.
Absolutely. And yeah, leaning on composability and integrating things that people are already familiar with, like mini apps, for example, or open banking in Europe, those types of things. Easy interfaces where you can easily uh, onboard, on ramp and off ramp funds, engage your community, et cetera, et cetera. Very community centric. And the core to that is really just like you said, getting this down in a sort of top level, sensible manner where we can break down everything that we're trying to solve for now that we're pivoting from specifically the card. And I agree. I think the card is fantastic, and we should continue to offer that as a service because gift cards are a potential profitable market. Not even profitable. Like it's not necessarily about the profit. We're a nonprofit, but we have to generate that token activity somewhere. You just have to have the scale behind the network. With 1 million users, it's a viable product that we could add to the stack, and we could definitely build it to that. So we certainly don't want to erase the work that we've done there. Um, Wrapping that all up by saying, once we've produced this, it will be a lot easier to create blog posts and engage back again on the social scene because we have, I guess, sort of renovated our mission, and then we know who to talk to and we know what we're talking about when we talk to them. It was easier a year and a half ago when we could talk about cards and how to change communities, and everybody was getting on spaces talking about decentralized this, that, and the other. Easy to just chat about that and bring a space together. Not so easy when the product is kind of like people aren't necessarily using it. We haven't had the uptake that we thought we would, and we've lost that ability to scale. So with this, it's a newfound mission and a newfound ability to scale.
Yeah, and I think like, yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think that the key is just small incremental progress week after week, every week, just doing something so tiny that maybe it feels like nothing, but um over the long term, and we've been here long term. I think we can like we figured out something to allow us to continue to moving long term. If every single one of us just puts a little bit into this week after week, we're gonna end up with something massive, right? Like it takes a brick a week. Eventually, we're gonna end up with something bigger. So yeah, just want to thank you all for being here. I think this work is extremely, extremely important. I think that the major players in the crypto industry today are all VC backed. I think for the most part, we've lost a lot of people. I think over the last couple bear cycles, and as a result, we've lost that kind of bottom up initiative. But that's why it's even more important for us to have that bottom up initiative, because it is through that bottom up initiative that we're actually going to create something that makes people's lives better, and not just pads the bottom lines of people who are already rich. And so I think it's really important, the work that we're doing, and I'm really, really grateful to have you all here doing the work with me. So appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynx. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
See you
Have an
later.
awesome 2026.
2026.